What I'd say is, importantly, study hard. Go for your education, do whatever you can, and then the rest will come. Take the risk of trying things out that maybe you didn't even study for.
So I have in studio Taimi Shejavali. She is the new CEO and portfolio manager of Ashburton, Namibia. And with her new appointment, she joins the FirstRand Namibia Group from Stanlib Namibia, where she served as CEO of the business for the past 5 years. She holds a BCom honors from UNISA and a higher certificate in financial market and instruments amongst other professional qualifications. And she's killing it. Let me just welcome you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I am so happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you've taken the time to really come and speak to us. Let's talk about your childhood. What kind of childhood you had and how did it shape you today?
Well, my childhood, I was born in the north of Namibia, in a place called Onanjokwe, so that's, is very close to Ondangwa. And my parents were both from, very, should I say, poor family, and they did their best for us. So my mom was a child of a pastor, and her mother actually was part of the royal family in Ondonga. And my father, he came from Angola. He actually came here almost in a way you could say as a, seeking asylum. And then they worked very hard to become what they became. My father is a pastor, my mother a teacher. So they were the very first in their families to be educated and have degrees.
Oh, wow.
So with having that kind of background, they put a lot of emphasis on education, on doing things right, also being Christian. And so that shaped a lot of what, of where I am. Later on, 2 years, I'm the firstborn. I'm their firstborn. So 2 years after I was born, my father went to the States to study, and we were fortunate enough to go and follow him to the States. So we lived there for about 7 years, and so that shaped a lot as well. Being able to grow up in a place where you don't know discrimination, racism, and so on, and then to come back at the age of 9 and to find that here in Namibia, that was quite a shock. But in all of that, I think that what shaped me is being able to see what we can do, seeing the potential of what we can do, and having the best and seeing the best in that. After coming back, my parents were living in Ochimbingwe, where they had to work. My father was working at a theological seminary there. So my sister and I went to convent, and we were in boarding school there. And then later on, my parents came back to Windhoek. We went to St. Paul. So in a way, living in the time of our Namibia, where there was segregation, but being able to still have the privileges of going to what was really known as white schools, living in a place where, in suburbs where, it was really for whites. But that's because of my father's work, where he was the Secretary General of the Council of Churches in Namibia, being very vocal, very active in the liberation for Namibia. So, being in a place where you were very active in the liberation, but yet living in a place where it's mainly for whites. And being in a school which was also mainly for whites, and being maybe one of the only black children in a class where it's mainly for whites as well. So having to marry that and still knowing that you're fighting for the liberation of your country. And in how it shaped me, I think, is that it's come to make me realize that everybody, black, white, Indian, Chinese, we all have a place in this world. And what is important is that is what is important. The color is not important. It's sad to see that, parents are actually the ones who influence the children, because children grow up not knowing color. So yeah, that I think is what has shaped me.
I must say you are the epitome of Afropolitan, growing up in a village and then being exposed to the world at large, and then being integrated to be able to study with people from other races as well. And with that, looking at that that early influence, how has that made you into the woman that you are today?
Well, I think that first of all is I look at people as a person before I look at them in terms of color and make assumptions about what the background is, and just looking at them as a person and what their potential is. And I think that in leadership also, it's shown me that everyone has potential.
Yeah.
I think to myself that what if all of us had the opportunity of going to a school which was a school for, at the standard that we went to, which was for really set up for whites. What if everybody had that opportunity? What could we do? And I look at what people have, where my friends and colleagues have gone to what was a Bantu education and what they've made out of themselves. And to say, what if everyone had that opportunity? Where would we be now? So, you know, I think that that's what shaped me into, you know, how I lead, to see the potential in everyone, and you know, being excited for tomorrow and knowing that the children that we see walking to school this morning, they're going to be the leaders of tomorrow. And what we do today, how we treat them, the world that we set up for them, is how they're going to treat us tomorrow. Tomorrow, you and I are going to be the ones with gray hair, and they're going to be the ones deciding on what pensions we get from government, how the hospitals are run, and we need to help them to make a better tomorrow for everybody.
Indeed. If you've just joined us, we're speaking to Taimi Shejavali. She's the new CEO and portfolio manager of Ashton, Namibia. We've just spoken about how she grew up in the village of Onanjokwe. I hope I pronounced that right.
That was born in the hospital of Onanjokwe,
oh, right.
and then grew up in, well, different places because my parents were running, you know, living and missionaries and, you know, in different places in the north, but in the north of Namibia.
So that's who we've been talking to. We've just covered her childhood. Now we're going to be looking at the trajectory which she took to get to where she is right now. 99 FM, Whitney Houston saying Heartbreak Hotel. I just learned off air right now about, you know, the hospital, Onanjokwe Hospital. Apparently it's very famous according to Boris. It's one of the the Namibia renowned hospital. So Taimi was born in a very illustrious hospital. But let's speak about the career path that finds you being the new CEO and portfolio manager of Ashton, Namibia, Ashburton, Namibia. How did that come about?
Well, it was a journey, Sibo. I won't say that it's something that I necessarily went out saying that this is what I want to do one day. I've always been ambitious, but to tell you the truth, even going into university, I really wanted to become a social worker.
Oh.
Yes, or a psychologist. So they said you must fill out 3. My last choice was the BCom because I didn't know what else to write. And voila, I was accepted for the BCom. And so I basically then just put my foundation into work there. And that's where I made sure that I worked hard. I was disciplined. And that's what I, you know, came with from home. And in each step of the way then, I was fortunate enough that when I was studying at WITS at the time. I finished my degree there. I then was accepted to do an internship at KPMG in South Africa. Again, worked hard. Wasn't too sure what to do after that, and then so stayed on for an additional 3 years after doing my articles. And then I was accepted at SEI Investments, which is an American investment company, and did 4 years there. And from there, I developed my love for investments.
Oh, wow.
And so basically, after working for SEI Investments, I worked in... I actually got married.
Let's not forget that.
Yes, don't forget. Got married.
Beautiful milestone.
Yes, lived in Angola for 2 years and then in Norway for 2 years. So that was basically a 4-year break from the corporate world.
Really?
Yeah. And then coming back to Namibia, that's when I joined Stanlib Namibia and worked there.
Let me just, if I can just interject a little bit, because as women, we're so scared to take that time off, right? And right now, young women are finding themselves taking later to get married, to decide to get married, to, have kids, because they're so afraid if I take that time off, it might just deter my career path.
Right.
So for you, that 4-year break, coming back into, shall I call it, for a lack of a better word, the system, was it a hard transition or no?
It wasn't a hard transition in that I really wanted to come back. I mean, I wanted to start working again at that time. And I was very fortunate that during those 4 years, I had my 2 kids. I always promised myself that I would be a full-time mom for at least 2 years, being able to stay at home, do what I needed to do with the kids and so on. And then, so coming back, it was absolutely the right time for me. And then I was very fortunate also to get the job that I got. And so they were also very supportive. I believe in being very supportive of women at work.
Yes.
At that time, my daughter was around about 9 months, between 9 months. And, even when I joined then, they were supportive in that when I had to travel to Johannesburg, I could go with a nanny and my daughter because I was, breastfeeding at the time and so on. And I just think it's very important. I don't think we realize how important it is to support mothers at work. You get loyalty from them. And also you're building a nation. You can't say that you're not building a nation. The mothers are really the ones. Fathers definitely are very important. We should also give that respect. Fathers need to take paternity leave, be with the kids at least for a month, alone for a month. And but I believe that if you support people in their work, then they are able to give the best of themselves.
Unfortunately, we are out of time. I can talk to you for like ages and ages and ages. I just want one tip, one career tip that you can give to our listeners.
What I'd say is, importantly, study hard. Go for your education. Do whatever you can, and then the rest will come. Take the risk of trying things out that maybe you didn't even study for, but make sure that, number one, you've got a very good work ethic. Number two, that you are educated. Take all the education that you can. Read about what's going on in your world. Don't just be on Instagram. Understand that, there are wars going on in the world. There's a war in Ukraine. The gas price is going up. There's a sovereign wealth fund that's launching today.
Yes.
Know what's going on in the world around you. So educate yourself and then have a very good work ethic.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much, Sibu. I'm so excited to be here.
That was Taimi Shejavali. She is the new CEO and portfolio manager at Ashburton, Namibia.
Royal Hustlers was proudly brought to you by Namdeb Diamond Corporation.
Good today, better tomorrow.